Hi, everyone, and welcome to the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast, where entrepreneurs help entrepreneurs grow faster, better, and stronger in the green industry. From leadership to sales to recruiting and operational excellence, we cover the topics holding entrepreneurs back and share how to get past those bottlenecks with the best in the industry. I'm your host, Rob Murray, co founder and CEO of Intrigue, a digital marketing company focused on helping landscape companies grow. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast. I have the honor and privilege of bringing John Spence onto the show. Thank you so much, John, for doing this.
My pleasure.
If you haven't had the chance of reading, hearing, or being exposed to John Spence's stuff, it is absolutely amazing. I had the opportunity of being introduced through one of our client's business coaches, and then just so happened to get to meet you live in person in Victoria for one of the EO conferences. And since I've been diving into your content like crazy. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is your approach to customer engagement and that customer obsession we just talked about. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value from. So before we get into the interview, can you just give kind of like a Coles Notes summary of kind of where you are right now and how you've gotten here over the years? I know there's a lot to it, and people can see your TED Talks and that type of thing, but maybe just give us a Coles Note so people have some context around what you're up to.
I'll do it super fast. We'll do the fun version. After failing out of college on the first try because of spending way too much time on the beach and in the bars, I had to restart college, and I ended up graduating number 4 in the United States in my major. Got hired by one of the Rockefeller Foundations right when I was coming out of college and became CEO of that foundation when I was 26 years old. So fast forward, I ran that foundation for a while. I ran a large consulting firm for a while. I've owned a couple of companies, and now at 59, I spend most of my time traveling around the world, teaching businesses from startups to the Fortune 10 how to improve. And my whole thing is trying to make complex business ideas as simple and easy to apply as possible.
Yeah, I love it, man. And seriously, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my honor.
So one of the theme of this podcast is to helping these entrepreneurs get through the growth constraints that are kind of holding them back. We talked about two briefly, one around a transition to working with commercial accounts, which I think we can talk to near the end. But the other one is this idea of this customer orientation and trying to understand the customers we have to be able to get more of them, and be able to delight them. So can you just speak a little bit to that? You're talking a little bit about that. There's one simple question we could be asking folks, like where are people missing the boat when it comes to approaching the customers they already have?
So I'm gonna hit a couple things. First, I want to talk about the fact that as a business owner, your most important customers are your employees. That to your customer, they may or may not get to. And as your company grows, they're not going to get to see you all the time, but they see the people on their property. So treating them with respect and dignity, and creating a great culture, all those things are critical. I've got a saying that I really enjoy, which is the customer's experience will never exceed the employee's experience. So that's sort of a stage one. Stage two is really being a customer fanatic. I'm use all these phrases. I'm sorry. I'm gonna throw
Oh,
out.
give her.
Yeah, is whoever owns the voice of the customer owns the marketplace. And I've been involved in the landscaping industry for almost 20 years with a couple of my clients. And I'll tell a brief story about this and the question. Many years ago, this was a landscaping firm that was in about the $3 million, $4 million range, are now up in the $400 million range. And one of the things that changed it was as they were going commercial and really starting to get some big accounts that were millions of dollar accounts, we went to 6 of their top clients and said, would you come in and sit on a customer advisory panel? And brought them in, got a room at a hotel, a big, not a ballroom, but a meeting room. We had their entire senior staff sitting there from the company. And we had their top customers sitting behind a table with microphones. And we asked them just a couple questions. And the most important one is, why specifically do you do business with us? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? And I'll say that again. Why specifically do you do business with us? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? All 6 said basically the same thing. And they turn around and said, okay, we're going to build that. That will be the strategy of our entire company, because we figure if 6 of our top clients that represent 80% of our revenue all hire us for the same 3 or 4 reasons, we have to be world class in those reasons. We got to be awesome at that. And that's really what they built their entire strategy, their growth strategy around. And they do that every year. They pick a bunch of their top clients. They do a lot of surveys, net promoter score and things, but they're constantly asking that question: what do we need to do to make you really, really happy? And that feedback has allowed them to be wildly customer focused and own the voice of the customer.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right? I mean, and it's so beautifully simple, coming
Mm-hmm.
back to what you awesomely simple. Yeah, asking your best customers why specifically do you do business with us, like, 3 or 4 reasons, and then using that as an orientation to, build, whether it's a 3 to 5 year focus, an annual focus, whatever, to double down on making those things that they say, a world-class competency. I just think that is awesomely
the,
simple.
the way I look at it is, if a group of people over here that represent your very best customers, the ones you'd like to have lots more just like them, if a big group of them all say the same 3 or 4 reasons, that pattern there becomes your strategy. It becomes your unique selling proposition. It should be all over your website, because they are, if they're going to buy, other people are probably going to buy for the same reasons. Stake, in my opinion, put your strategy around that, put all your advertising and marketing around that, and continue to ask the question. But it's a pretty solid bet. If a whole bunch say the same thing, that's really how you are going to succeed in the marketplace.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's also, I mean, the voice of the customer, the perception is reality, right? Their perception is your reality. So trying to fight that is probably not the best way to go. So I think it's a really good approach. So and often overlooked, right? Like taking a bit of time to pull together your best customers in a customer advisory board, in terms of overall resources, is not crazy. But a lot of people forget maybe to do it, right?
Yeah,
So
you
that's
don't have to get the hotel ballroom, bring the whole staff in. Just go ask them, talk
right.
to them, pick up a phone, call them, chat with them. And the reason that question is so specific is, I only want to know 4 reasons. I don't want to know 44. I just want
Right.
the top 3 or 4, because it's that pattern that gives me the confidence to say, okay, like I ask my clients every year, and I've been doing it for 25 years, and I get the same thing every year. Research, real life, passion equals ROI. I read 100, 120 business books a year. I have for 25 to 30 years. I work with companies all over the world. I've owned companies and done it. And I know what it's like to have to sign paychecks and fire people. And I've dedicated my whole life to doing this. And because of that, people get a return. That's all over my stuff. It's all over my website.
Literally.
Yeah, literally everywhere, because all of my top clients that spend a lot of money with me tell me those are the 3 reasons they hire me.
I love it. So
Yeah,
then on this idea of that customer orientation, the clients, and making sure we understand them better, um, moments of truth. So
yeah,
can we just give the audience kind of some quick context around what those are and maybe how they can start to find them?
yep. So I'll give the quick backstory quickly. That's it. If I've been giving a quick backstory, then it's pretty quickly. um, Years and years ago, the Scandinavian Air Systems was on the verge of bankruptcy. And they brought a new guy in named Jan Carlson to turn the airline around. And he looked at it and said, this is totally messed up. We're just going to have to start from scratch, basically. And he said, then if we're going to do that, let's build the new business focused on the very, very, very best customers in the marketplace. And in the airline industry, that's frequent business travelers, people like me that are on, the road a couple hundred days a year. And as as your listeners are thinking, who would be your best customer? If you looked in your community or your region, who would be the people that would be the awesome customers that would grow your business? That's what he did with the airline. Then he backed up and said, now let's look at every single touch point that we have with them, from when they call in to make a reservation, to when they show up to get their tickets, when they go to the gate, when they get on the plane, the food, all of that. And then let's back up and look at, for our best customers, what are the 3 or 4 things we must do flawlessly? Those moments of truth. And I always use a very simple example is restaurants. Uh, I've asked this question to tens of thousands of people. Basically, at a restaurant, there's only 4 major moments of truth: good service, reasonable prices, good quality food for the prices, and cleanliness. And I've heard that all over the world.
Yeah.
So my example is, if you went to a restaurant and the service was magnificent, the people were wonderful, they brought you, ice cold beer, and you looked at the prices, and the prices are really reasonable. The food comes out, it's awesome. Then you go in the bathroom and it's disgusting, it's dirty. And in a restaurant, here's a great example. If you go in the bathroom and it's dirty, the first question you ask yourself is, I
Kitchen.
wonder what the kitchen looks like. Right. So here's my point. Maybe they did 100 touch points. It was easy to park, plenty of lighting. It's air conditioning's perfect. Music, everything's right. They nail 3 of the 4 moments of truth. Great service, great food, reasonable prices. They miss up 1 moment of truth, cleanliness, and they lose the customer forever. And actually, they become what I call a customer terrorist.
Right.
They go around telling everybody, don't do
go.
business with them. So for your folks, and part of this comes from asking that question, why are the 3 or 4 reasons? And then stepping up, and also remember that you have moments of truth internally, things you have to do for each other that allow you to do the things externally. Landscaping industry, if the folks back at the head office are not getting the machines ready and not fixing stuff, it's kind of hard to do landscaping when your machinery's
And to be
not
there on
working.
time.
Yeah, the truck won't start, or the lawnmower doesn't work, or
It's
all
out
of
of
the
gas or
weeds.
whatever.
Yeah, all that stuff. If that seems simple, but if you don't follow that process, then you're going to fail at the end. I'm going to do a really quick another story. Because I travel so much, I go to a lot of restaurants, and I eat the same breakfast every morning: 2 eggs over medium, sausage patty or link, piece of dry whole wheat toast. I will go to a restaurant, a really nice restaurant, for breakfast, and I'll give that order, and the waiter or waitress will not write anything down.
Right.
They want to impress me with their amazing memory. And I'm like, oh, here it's going to go. It's only 4 items: iced tea, eggs, blah, blah, blah. They're going to mess it up.
Yeah.
And the process is simple: write down the order.
Mm.
They skip that one step. They ruin my breakfast. And I watch them having it, and they got to return stuff. They got to recook stuff. It's that simple little one step that messes up the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So as you look at your own company, what are the moments of truth that have to be done flawlessly? And then what processes do you put in place? What training, resources, all that stuff, to make sure that those things are perfect every single time?
Yeah, I love it. Right. So it's like looking at it's almost reverse engineering. How do we make a
Yep.
flawless experience for the customer? And then what do we have to do as a team to make sure that we're ready to create that flawless experience?
It's exactly right.
So
And again, that's internal as well as external. The
yeah, big time.
machines have to run, the accounting has to be good, so the
Right.
billing's on time.
And then in the landscape business, so somebody who is, let's say, focused on whether it's residential or commercial, is there one example that comes to mind just to get their minds kind of working on from a starting point of, oh yeah, okay, I understand that would be a moment of truth for my customer.
Yeah. So here's what I learned from the company I worked with. Don't surprise me. Be proactive. Get there and fix stuff before I see that a tree is dying or a sprinkler's broken or something like that. Number 2, I love this one. Give me 3 prices. And I'm not always going to pick the lowest.
Right.
Sometimes I'll pick the highest, but don't just come in and give me one price. Give me a range of options. And then be on time and be respectful. Don't go right up to the window and air blow in the middle of the afternoon. Let's get this stuff done when the place is rolling. So it's all about no surprises. Give me options. Give me advice. This is why I should replace this tree or redo these things over here. Why, we should cut more often, or what it might be. But those are the main things. Which, now back up. If I owned a commercial property, I don't want to come in one day and see a dead tree laying there. I don't want to see water shooting out of a sprinkler. I want my landscaping firm to come and make recommendations. Hey, we ought to do this, change this, move more mulch here, whatever it might be.
Easy.
Yeah, easy stuff. And then, the big one, communication. Keep me in the loop. Let me know what's going on. Communicate with me, which is part of the don't surprises. That was the one in the landscape firm or the firms that I've worked with, is stay in touch. Pick up the phones, ask how they like it. You want a phone? Do you want a text? Do you want an email? But keep them informed. Let them know what's going on. You got to build a relationship there. And when you get these big accounts, messing up one relationship can hurt real bad. Like,
yeah, big time.
6 figures, 7 figures bad.
Well, and again, awesomely simple. I mean, there's a theme obviously here, John, but letting someone know when you're coming and when you're leaving. is really simple. And there's technology that can automate the whole thing. So you can just say, hey, we're being routed towards you right now. Crew's on the way. Hey, we just finished up. Thanks so much for the day. The crew's done. We're leaving now. Here's quick notes of what they found on the property that day.
What this guy does is
So
they
simple.
take quick pictures.
Boom, boom, boom.
Use their cell phone. Bam! Here's a tree that was dead. This is why we replaced it. Or here's the sprinkler. Or here's an area we think needs to be fixed. They just boom, quick picture, and shoot the picture to them and say, "This is what it looked like when we got here. This is what it looked like when we left."
Love it. Okay, so then we're talking about customer obsession, and one of the first things you said was, well, the first thing is the entrepreneur, the business owner's customer is the team
Yep.
first and foremost, and the customer experience is never going to exceed the team's experience, which I'm a full fan. I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, Southwest Airlines did a fantastic job, I think, making that a reality. um, can you just break that down a little bit so that people understand the context behind it, and then maybe some of the things that you're seeing people do really well with engaging those teams?
Yeah, and in the industry, I think both everybody listening knows is the folks out in the field on the property that's a tough group. They're the ones that are doing the actual work. They're really, again, as I say, they're the face of your company. They're the ones that
Like
people see.
actually, like literally.
Literally the face of your company. Well, I always tell the story. I live in Florida. Publix is the major grocery store here.
Mhm.
And I'll get in an audience in Florida and say, how many of you shop at Publix? And every hand goes up just about. Then I say, okay, how many of you personally know the family that owns Publix? Nobody. How many of you personally know the CEO of Publix? Nobody. How many of you know the manager for the state of Florida of Publix? Nobody. How many of you personally know your regional manager? Nobody. How many personally know your store manager? Now I'll get maybe three hands out of 100. How many of you know the people that check you out every day and you and bring your stuff to your car? Every hand goes up. I go, do you understand that the people at the cash register and the person who carries your groceries are Publix to you? All those other people could be awesome, but if that person's rude, you're gone.
Yeah.
So the thing that I've really seen, both internal, for people at head office and out in the field, the teams, is culture. It's do you treat people with dignity and respect? Do we try to have fun? Do we keep them in the loop on things? Do we give them a sense of pride? We're going to give them nice trucks. We're going to paint them. We're going to put a nice logo on it. Give them good equipment. We're going to celebrate them when something goes well. We're going to, one of the firms I work with, twice a year they do a celebration barbecue or a dinner, and they go into the
Simple.
shed and put a bunch of chairs out, nothing spectacular, and they give away some swag. Here's some shirts, hats, here's a couple of gift cards, things like that. For the folks that are out on the property, that is a big deal for them to have a whole day where we're not going to do anything but tell you nothing gets done without all of you out in the field. You are the heart and soul of the business. And it's the same thing internally, is having a great culture. You can't pay. Some people are driven by money. I think most people that do this know here's roughly what everybody says is, as long as I'm making 10% more or less than I would make anyplace else, money isn't the major motivator. If I, some people, if I can jump and go down the street, make a few bucks more, they'll go. But for most people, if I love the company I'm working in, I like the people I work with, I'm treated fairly, it's got a family atmosphere, I take pride in where I work, a few bucks more is not going to pull them away, and they will become loyal employees and part of the family. So it isn't all about money. It's about how you treat people and how you celebrate them and make them feel good about what they're doing, and tie a direct line between what they do every day and the overall success of the organization.
Yeah, I love it. And so a lot of times, we talk a lot on this idea of growth on purpose, and a big part of that is living core values, and because then they'll create a culture, because culture exists no matter what,
Right.
whether you intend it or not, it's there. Core values can shape culture if
Mm-hmm.
done properly. But a lot of times we'll hear feedback from entrepreneurs being like, we tried this thing and it was okay, then it kind of fizzled, we didn't do it again, or like, oh, we don't have the time to do that kind of stuff. What do you say to the audience in terms of, like, first of all, making the time, how valuable it is, or one or two things that they can do, and make it stick for a long time, so that way it actually turns into something, that breeds that kind of culture that you're talking about?
So when people tell me they don't have enough time, I'm not a violent person, but it takes everything I can not to choke them. Um, how can you not have time for this? It is your business. If you don't do this, you will not have a business, or your turnover will be out of control. And I worked for a boat manufacturing company once, and some guy, this is a stupid rule. You can't take more than 15 bolts or screws to go work on the boat. So put 15 in, go get 15 more. So the guy said, put a handful. The manager, shop boss saw him, said, you're out of here. That's it. I told the owner, do you know that cost you about $160,000 for that guy to put screws in the boat to get fired? Because now you got to pay this, you got to retrain somebody, you got to rehire somebody, insurance, blah, blah, blah. As soon as you realize that, the whole thing shifted. You have to realize if you've got bad culture and turnover, it's costing you a lot of money. Mm. And culture to me, and you said it very well, culture is there no matter what. Culture by design is really the way to do it. What kind of a culture do we want? And then it's totally from the leadership team. If the leadership team doesn't make time, another thing that makes me crazy is people that have, like, I work with a lot of credit unions. The CEO goes and visits the branches 1 hour a year. Like, you got 15 branches. Swing by and visit one on the way to work in the morning. Swing by and visit one on the way out. You should be there at least once a month or every 2 weeks for a half an hour, an hour. Go out and see your folks in the field. Go spend time with them. Hang out with them, in the shed or whatever. Get to know them, because if you're not interacting with them at that level, they will not feel loyal to the organization. And that's how, if you want a culture of fairness and friendly and family and all the things, that doesn't happen by chance. It happens because you make an effort to go out and celebrate people, praise them, spend time with them, give them training, give them development, help them get better at their job. Those things are planned, and they are much less expensive than massive turnover.
Yeah, massively much less expensive. So, yeah. Was it, I think John C. Maxwell, you have to win a heart before you ask for a hand?
Absolutely. I've never heard that one, but it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and I think what you just said and the way you articulated it, exemplifies that well. So then let's assume that there's some people listening right now and they've always wanted to do something like this, have never really done it. They don't know how to start. What would be a tip to kind of get into it and start building some sort of habit, routine, or tradition that'll engage their team?
Well, I'll give you I told you I worked at the Rockefellers for a while, and we did some work with them. And I'm trying to think, it was Carnegie Foundation. It was Andrew Carnegie that used to put 3 pennies in his right pocket and say, I have to go out and talk to 3 people today. And as soon as I talk to one person, I can move 1 penny to the other pocket. And that got him out of his office every day, walking out on the floor, meeting people, because his rule to himself was all 3 pennies must be in the other pocket before I leave today. That's just a simple thing of make the time, get out of your chair.
Yeah, the other things are really easy. So easy.
I know, it's so easy. Yeah, I've got one guy that I work with, the CEO. His office is on the 3rd floor, and the exit is out on the 1st floor. I'm like, never take the elevator. Walk through the office, the 2nd floor, where you've got 100 employees that barely know you. Every single time you go up and down, it'll be good for your health, and it'll be great for your company. So how do you build a little bit? They call it MBWA, management by walking around or wandering around. The other thing is to plan, giving a lunch out or having a pizza party, or having everybody stop for a minute to celebrate one person, maybe having an Employee of the Month award, doing something nice like giving somebody a gift certificate to take their family out. And it doesn't have to be money. A handwritten note is an unbelievably positive thing, because if you take the time to sit at your desk and write somebody, you're really doing a great job, I'm proud of you, thank you so much for being on our team. If you did 2 or 3 of those a month, you would have people that would run through walls for you. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It just needs to be heartfelt, and you need to make the time. And that's the whole senior team. And again, I'm going to say, if the top leader, 1 or 2 leaders, don't think that that's a good idea, and they won't spend time, it doesn't matter what anybody else does.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah. I love like the little notes. We have these things, little awesome.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome citation. That's fantastic.
Game on Amazon, a pack is like $3 or something like that. And so the Gallup Poll International Survey, Organizational Health Survey, there's like the
Mhm.
12 questions or something like that. One,
The Q12.
yeah, that's it. And so one of the things, one of the areas that cross-cultural lowest rated score was I've received praise for doing good work in the last 7 days.
Yep.
Organizations across the world scored low. So, and we did too the first time we did it.
So let me give you a really cool idea around that.
Shoot.
When I left the foundation, I was a stand-in CEO at several companies. And they'd always say, John, what's your vision? And I'm like, I don't have one. I'm going to be gone in 6 months.
Right.
My job is to come here, hold the fort down, hire somebody new, take the company over. But what I can tell you is I'm going to make this the best place you've ever worked while we're here together. And part of that was what I call creating a culture of catching people doing things right. I tell a senior executive, you got someone needs praise once every, and it's actually closer about once every 5 days now, but every 5 to 7 days, like I don't have time to do that. No, you maybe not. You should still be out praising people. But what I would do is I would challenge everybody every day when you come in for work. Every day, I want you to catch 3 people doing something right. Doesn't have to be massive. Just okay. You wipe down the weed eater before you put it back, or you did this, or you brought some coffee, whatever it might be. But everybody is challenged to 3 times a day say thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. I'm glad on your team. What happens then is you get tons of praise around the culture. And the way I used to describe it, that means when you go to work in the morning, you know that you get to make a couple of people's days better.
Yeah, that's
I'm
cool.
going to make some people, and everybody else is trying to make your day better.
I
So
love
it's,
it.
yeah,
And not to mention the habit forming of looking for positive
yeah,
versus what leaders are naturally prone to do, which is look for things that are broken that need to be fixed. So I think that's a beautiful habit that can be instilled really easily.
very easily.
And then also, layer on top of it, if you can say it with a core value attached to it, hey, you're practicing this, rock on, bring them to life. I just think that's super cool. So, okay,
It's a great idea to tie it into the core values. Fantastic idea.
so we got customer obsession, this idea that team is customer, the moments of truth. And then you talked a little bit as a growth constraint, as an entrepreneur, it's going from the ground up. They started off with a truck and a mower, let's say,
Yep.
and it's 15, 20 years later, they're a $4 or $5 million company. um, Outside help, you kind of mentioned that there's huge opportunities as you're growing to figure out different types of people to bring into the organization, whether it's a mentor, a coach, or even somebody inside internally full time on the senior leadership team, to help run the business at different levels as it grows. So can you just speak to what you've seen there and kind of how that applies to folks?
Yeah, I see this across all industries. Is somebody starts a small business, an entrepreneur by themselves, 2 or 3 employees. They look up one day and they have 30 employees, then 100, then 300. And what some entrepreneurs have to admit is I don't have the skills to run 100 million. Let's just say that I don't have the skills to run a 10 million or a $20 million company. I was way in over my head at 5 million. I've
Right.
been scraping by, got lucky. So part of it is you have to understand that at some point you have to bring in somebody that has strong business experience. You might know landscaping really, really well. You might know your community well, but running a 5 million or $10 million company is different than running a $500,000 company. The idea of advisors, mentors, brilliant. I do a lot of work in New Zealand. Even small companies have a board of directors or a board of advisors. Almost every company. I'm talking $1 million or less. They
Right.
get 3 or 4 people. So another thing that, and I think your industry has this, is non-competitive groups that get together and share information and ideas.
Yeah, for sure. There's
Yeah,
lots of peer-to-peer learning.
peer-to-peer learning. That is awesome. Um, and then there's another idea called creating a mastermind group. Are you familiar with that?
Very much so.
Yeah, and that is I've had, when I failed out of college, one of the things that changed my life was I created a mastermind group, which was basically my study group.
Mm.
And I got, I said, anybody wants, I'd stand up every semester. Hi, I'm John. I really want to do all this class. I'm going to start a study group. Anybody's willing to be in the study group, as long as you have a 3.6 GPA or higher. So I surrounded myself with really talented people that raised my game and everybody else's game. Same thing. I just said earlier, I'm almost 60. I still have a study group. I've got a group of CEOs. We all read together. We meet. We go to dinner. We help each other with our businesses. We're all non-competitive. We're in completely different industries. So that idea of having a team of people to help you, whether it be an advisory board, an outside consultant, a coach, a mastermind group, the more the better. Well, I did a TED Talk on this. You probably remember the most important thing I've ever learned in my life is you become what you focus on and like the people you surround yourself with. Whatever you're reading, studying, learning, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you fill your brain and your mind with, whoever you choose to spend your time with will directly determine the rest of your life. And it's the same thing in your business. What does your business focus on? Are you learning, are you innovating, are you growing? And then who is on your team in your business? Those two things completely determine the success of your organization.
I love it. And so from a mindset perspective, and I was talking about a little bit a couple minutes ago, a lot of entrepreneurs get fixated on what needs to be fixed. So like, this is broken, we got to make that better, we got to make that better, as opposed to everything like, this is great, that is great, that is great. Can you speak to the different mindsets and like how that impacts people and their success or lack thereof?
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't read this book yet, but I just got a one called Compassionate Accountability. And I'm not plugging because I haven't read it. I don't know if it's good.
Sure, yeah, that's cool.
But it's the idea of kindness and accountability. Is I'm going to treat you with respect. We're going to celebrate. But I'm also going to make sure you absolutely do the things you need to do in your job. And the way to do that is to be exceedingly clear in expectations. And, I don't like process, but if you want repeatable success, you must have process. So having specific measurements, ways that things get done, standard operating procedures, safety measures, things like that people are trained on all the time, then you have the ability to say, you're okay, I like you. However, what you just did broke our safety protocol. And that can't happen. You're okay, your behavior was not okay. So I'm not going to worry about trying to fix you per se. Let's fix the issue, the problem. So the way to create that is to have very clear stuff. So you can say, we have an ABC process, or you were supposed to, you're one of your salespeople. You were supposed to close $1 million worth of business this year. We're in October and you've only closed 500,000. What can we do? Not what will you do, but what can we do to help each other? Because the idea on this is you're not reprimanding. I don't know, use reprimand. You're not fixing someone to be aggressive. You're doing it because we want everyone to succeed. That's the mindset that shifts. Is we're all on the same team. I'm holding you accountable because we want to be successful together.
Well, and one of the things you just said though about clarity, I think is really important, because a lot of people will get frustrated with their team, but the team doesn't know why they're frustrated, and then all of a sudden they just get blown up at. And so if we come back to that clarity piece, what are some tips you can give some folks now to be like, okay, here's how you get clear with people? And it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, some people get overwhelmed with this idea of like everything needs to be, standard operating procedure. Everything needs to be listed out like crazy. And I think it's over complicating and makes the whole thing like you don't even want to start because it's so big. So how can we peel it back and make it awesomely simple to get people moving towards clarity with their team?
So there's two things here. One is taking the time, and not on everything, but on the stuff that's got to get done, our moments of truth, the core things, is to create exceedingly clear expectations. Let people know what success looks like. I like to say, make it easy for them to win. Don't make them guess about what will make you happy or the client happy, the customer happy. This is an old analogy. I haven't used it at all in years. It's kind of stupid, but I'm going to do it anyways. It's kind of like if you're a bowling alley and the pins are what you want your employee to hit, but you put a curtain there and they roll the ball and you hear clinking and you go, try harder. Like, what do you mean? Try harder. Try harder how? I don't know what happened.
Roll the ball harder.
Yeah, just roll the whole ball. You know what to do. Come on, man. Just try harder. So the idea is people need to know specifically what success looks like. They need to be trained to do it. And then the other side is wherever possible, and this is hard, make the expectations binary. Yes or no, black or white, you did it or you didn't. If you can get as close to that as possible, then it isn't about you. It's you didn't do what you agreed you do.
Right.
Yeah. We said we do A, you just did B. That's an issue. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying
that's
we agreed on A and you got to do A going forward. Because if it gets you, I don't think you're doing a good job. I don't think you're trying hard. It doesn't seem to me you did that right. That's all opinion.
Mhm.
And the other person can have an opinion that they did it right.
Right.
You need to take opinion and politics and favoritism and emotion out of it. You either did it or you didn't. Again, you're a good person until the point where it gets that you say, okay, this person isn't right for the company. Up until that time, it's you're a great person. This performance didn't meet the expectations that we agreed upon. And
Yeah,
there's
well,
no guessing.
and the
Go ahead.
beautiful part about that is a lot of people, if it's clear and they're not winning, they're stressed out and not happy. And having that conversation can be a relief. Like, why don't we get you being epic somewhere else? Like, if you can't make it epic here, and you don't need to be stressed out. And we always talk about this idea of like, let's make sure you're happy and healthy.
Yeah.
If people are stressed out, not happy, and stress will eventually turn into disease, like sick. People get sick when they're really stressed out for a really long
Yeah.
period of time. If you're not happy and healthy, then let's figure out how to get you happy and healthy.
Yeah. We use a thing called the 3 T's: train, transfer, or terminate. If I can't train you up in this place to be epic at this job, can I move you somewhere else in the company? Not hide you or shovel you, but where you will be great and happy and healthy. And if I can't train you or transfer you to be happy and healthy, and I'm not saying when I say terminate, it's the three
No, that's
T's.
just yeah.
Yeah, it's just the word is, as Canadians often say, love them right out the door.
Well, and let them be free to go be great somewhere else.
Well, I just did this with one of my clients. I do a lot of executive coaching, and she had a person in a company that they'd moved him around all over the place, and he just wasn't succeeding. And then I helped him put in some key performance indicators, some binary measurements. And after about 3 weeks, it was too much pressure. He knew he couldn't do it. So this is what I counseled her on. I said, he's been here for 7 years. He's a good guy. He just can't do the work. Tell him when you go to let him go. And he actually said, I think I need to go. And she said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bust our ass to help you get the right job.
Yeah.
You tell me what you want to do. You tell me what would make you happy and healthy. And I will go out to my network and I will help you find the job that you want, where you will be able to, and I get to use your term again, where you will be epic. And he said, you do that for me? She said, of course. She said he was like the happiest person in the world who just lost their job.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
I've
then
done the
there's
same
that.
thing with my employees. You're a great person. This isn't the right place for you. You're going to be great someplace else. Let me help you find that place.
I love that. And it comes from a place of compassion, which is an easy way to have a conversation as opposed to frustration or anger or whatever might be there without that
Yeah.
clarity.
Frustration and anger doesn't help anything.
Nobody. Okay, so I've taken up more time than we had scheduled, and I know that I don't want to do too much of that. So last one, wrap it up.
Okay.
And 120 business books a year for 25 years. If you could provide the audience a resource, whether it's a speaker, a podcast, a TED Talk, something that's coming to mind, customer obsession kind of being kind of the core focus of what we're talking about today, that you'd recommend, what would it be?
Wow. I wish you'd asked me that before we got on here so I could think about it.
Well, a couple. It doesn't have to be the best
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
What
Well, first of
comes
all,
to mind?
this is going to sound weird, but like people that find this sort of thing on YouTube, I'm a big fan of using YouTube to find stuff. There's more information available for free right now than ever in the history of humankind. You want to do training for your folks? Go find a couple of YouTube videos on customer focus, customer obsession, things like that. It doesn't cost anything. I'm a huge fan for reading. I think I've said it before. If you read 12 books a year, you're in the top 1% in the world for personal continuous learning. So being a lifelong learner, being constantly, okay, I want to learn more about customer service. Let me go to Amazon, see the top 3 books at Amazon, buy one, read it. Whenever I meet somebody who's really successful, I always say, what are the top 3 business books you've ever read? If I were to look at a book right now that I recently read, it would be Beyond Entrepreneurship or Business Entrepreneurship. It's called BE2 by Jim Collins. And Jim Collins is one of the most famous business guys in the history of business. I'm going to see him in October. And it's basically a compilation of all the books he's ever written.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And because, his books it's kind of tough, and he looks at bigger companies. But here's what I always say. I work for Apple and Microsoft. I also work for startups. It's the same thing. It's just more zeros. Pretty much every company struggles from the same 5 or 6 or 10 things. It's just, instead of it being 10 people, it's 10,000. It's obviously more complicated, but communications, accountability, things like that, culture, doesn't matter. So that's it. And then, do you have a resource center on your YouTube or on where they can go and look from
Yeah, on
after they listen to this or watch it?
we've got blogs and resources. So guides, we've got a bunch of stuff on our website.
Okay, use that, and then I'll send you. I've got a couple of I've got a list of the top 60 or 70 business books I've ever read. Actually, it's got some personal development books in there too. I also have a great list of questions you should ask yourself before you fire somebody. And here's why. If you could say yes to all of them, yes, they have the resources. Yes, I've trained them. Yes, I've done that. Yes, yes, yes. Then they probably need to go. Here's what I'm going to tell you. 90% of the time, it's going to be yes, no, 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 no. And you go, let me look in the mirror because I didn't do the stuff they need for them to be successful. It's not about me terminating them. It's about me being a better leader or a better
I love
manager.
that, man.
I'll
Oh,
send
and
you a bunch of resources.
yeah, well, and I'll put it into the summary for the podcast. So everybody listening, you can just grab it from the summary notes wherever you're listening or watching this thing. And then if somebody wants to engage with John Spence, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
John Spence, johnspence.com is my website. But if somebody has a question or didn't get something or wants a specific book recommendation, my email is john@johnspence.com. Very innovative, isn't it?
Awesomely simple,
Yeah,
my man.
awesomely simple. And I answer all my own emails. If it might take me a couple days to get back to you if I'm really busy. And if it's truly important or urgent, like I got a question I need some help with right now, write important or urgent in all caps on the header, and I will read it immediately and get back to you as fast as you can.
You're the best, John. Thank you so much for doing this.
That's the way, as I said at the beginning, this is where we're all in this together. It's our job to help each other and all of us to be more successful and take care of our people. That's people ask me why I got into this, because every company I can help is 40 or 50 or 100 or 1,000 jobs and their families and their kids. I think leaders don't realize sometimes that it isn't just your business, it's all these people's lives. And you're responsible. When I was young, I used to lay awake in bed worried about all the kids I had to put through college. I don't have kids, but I had families that I had to take care of by making sure our company was as successful as possible.
I love it, dude. A true servant mindset. Thank you, John.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The I Am Landscape Growth Podcast is brought to you by Intrigue, where passionate marketing meets predictable results for entrepreneurs. Remember to like and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please visit intriguemedia.com and click on podcasts.